Well, hello there. This is Dr. Dell, and I have guessed from the fact that you searched on the certain keywords involving algebra, geometry, or trigonometry that you're interested in those subjects. Probably you're either a parent wanting to teach your student, or you're a student or a teacher. And I have 6 things that I would like to share with you that I've learned. I'm a mathematician, and I've been teaching mathematics for actually several decades now. And here's 6 things that I want to share with you. First of all, I think you need to know that these 3 subjects, algebra, geometry, and trigonometry, are really intimately interconnected, and you probably need to be learning them all together. I think it's been a big mistake today in our standard curriculum to teach these as sort of separate, independent topics, which indeed they are not. And I'm going to demonstrate that to you in just a little bit during this video. Now, I have some really good news for you. These 3 subjects are quite easy to learn or to teach someone at the most basic foundational level. That usually isn't done. Generally speaking, you dive right into very deep parts of each of these before you have covered all of the most basic foundational level material, and I think that's a big mistake. So that's one of the things I want you to know. And another thing is that the scientific calculator today is a power tool that makes it possible to learn these things at a basic foundational level very, very efficiently and quickly. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about that in a moment. The scientific calculator that I personally use when I do mathematics in industry or in practical mathematics is the Texas Instruments 30XA. And indeed, I do teach mathematics, and this is the one I use when I'm teaching these basic subjects. Now, what I'd like to do before I get into the last 3 things that I'm going to tell you about today is talk a little bit about just what really is included in this foundation that I believe you should learn first. First of all, as you probably can understand from what I said, I expect that the first thing you should do is learn how to use a calculator. Now, it is true you will not know the mathematics behind it, but first get to use it, learn to use it before you try to learn the specifics of the mathematics. And then you're going to need some pre-algebra. This is basically arithmetic if you haven't already done it, and you will need to review that. And I'm going to show you some table of contents here in a moment. And then you need to study algebra and geometry and trigonometry kind of sequentially, but in a way that they're integrated. And in fact, I believe that you should be able to cover this entire material today in about 2 to 3 months if you are a typical student. Some will do it a little faster, some will do it slower, but that doesn't really matter. If you're willing to work about an hour a day, 5 days a week, and if you have reasonable aptitude at all, then I believe that you will be able to cover all of this in about 2 to 3 months. And indeed, I've demonstrated it with many students that I've taught. So I know that's true. And I would say that 80% of all students today are quite capable of doing that, maybe 90%. Now, the foundation consists of training materials in this, so I'm going to let you use it as a table of contents for teaching yourself mathematics from whatever resources you want to use. I'm going to tell you about 3 terrific free resources available on the internet today. But even then, you're going to say, well, what should I study? Well, here are the table of contents that I think you should study. You should start off with learning how to use certain basic functions of the calculator. And I've indicated them here, and you can see what they are. Now, I'm going to give you a PDF version of everything I'm showing you here, so don't feel like you've got to take notes and write any of this down. Once you've learned to use the calculator, then you need to review arithmetic and make sure that you understand it adequately. And I call it pre-algebra or arithmetic review. And here's some of the things that you need to do. And basically, it's arithmetic. A multiplication, addition, understanding fractions, the distributive law, and using some of the very useful and commonly used higher level functions such as x squared, the square root, reciprocal, and so on. So this would be a pre-algebra material you should cover. And then you should go into algebra. Now, the first time you go through algebra, this is where I deviate from what a lot of the standard curriculums do. Here are the things that I believe you need to know to do practical math problems. And you'll notice it's a pretty limited selection. Basically, you have some linear equations you need to learn because this comes up all the time. And then you have what I call near linear. These are equations that are very easy to solve, even though they're not linear. What you will notice here is that I have not included a lot of the content that's normally covered in an algebra course. For example, there's no quadratic formula here. It's not that those things are not important, but not the first time through when you're just beginning to really understand and learn math. Because algebra is really a tool that you're going to use when you go into geometry. In fact, it's how you solve problems in this world is you take geometry and you set up certain models, and then you have unknowns, and you use algebra uh, in conjunction with those models to find the things you want to know. And here are the topics that I believe that you should learn, first of all, when you study geometry. And I've got 20 topics listed here. In fact, really 19, because the 20th here is an optional topic looking forward. Now, once again, I'm going to give you a PDF of these contents, so you don't need to write this down. And then finally, trigonometry. If you know what it is, you'll understand this. If you don't, it might be intimidating, but let me tell you about trig. It is really, in a certain sense, just an extension of algebra and geometry to deal with triangles. And so here are the topics that you need to first learn when you study trigonometry. And there's really only 7 of them here. This 8th one is an optional where I talk about trig beyond practical math. And these are all topics that you need to learn at your first pass through. So that's what I recommend that you do when you take it upon yourself to study math or to teach math. Now, it's fine and dandy for me to say this, and I'm going to give you the PDF of the syllabus if you go over to our box and opt in and start a dialogue with us and what we're doing. But I will tell you about 3 free terrific resources. One of them, of course, you all know about, I'm sure, is Wikipedia. That's a tremendous resource if you want to look up some facts or get some information. I use it myself a lot. There's another good resource of free videos from Khan Academy, and they're really also very terrific if you can find what you want and if you know what you want. That's the problem there, of course. And then finally, there's a brand new, powerful Wolfram Alpha that I use all the time, and it's just terrific. Now, I will, when you opt in for the additional materials, I will give you the URLs of these in a PDF and talk a little bit more about them so you'll know what you're getting into. I'm going to also tell you that I don't know of any book that's self-sufficient to study these subjects for most people. There are rare people that can learn on their own from a book, but most people need a book. But if you do want to use a book, the one that I use and when I teach these subjects at a higher level, not in the practical foundational level, I don't use any book at all there. Well, I use notes that I've prepared myself, but there's a book by Dr. George Simmons. It's called Pre-Calculus Mathematics in a Nutshell. Dr. George Simmons is a fabulous teacher. He covers geometry, algebra, and trigonometry all in this little book. It's 119 pages long. It's about a $20 book. You can buy it at Amazon. And if you're looking for one book to study any of these 3 subjects, and preferably all of them, this is the book. I will also tell you that he goes way beyond what I've talked about here in the most basic foundations. You're not likely to go through this book that quickly because it has a lot of deeper material in it. And as a matter of fact, if you value your time highly, which I believe you ought to, then there are some very valuable resources you can actually purchase. And indeed, I sell such a resource, and we'll tell you about it at some later time if we click. Now I'm going to finish this video by showing you 3 problems that kind of demonstrate what I've been telling you about in these integrating together. And again, I'm going to give you a PDF of these problems so you can work them yourself, and I'll actually include the solutions on them. And indeed, in the next video that you can get when you opt in to our program, and it's free, of course, is I will actually show you some solutions to these problems. The first problem is simply a circle and an inscribed triangle where this is a diameter, and I give you the lengths of these 2 sides. And the problem is, what's the circumference of the circle? Now, this is a very easy problem to solve if you know your basic foundational math. And in fact, what you would do here is apply the Pythagorean theorem, and then you would get the diameter, and then from there you could get the circumference. Now, here is a problem that is a little bit deeper. Here's a triangle. Here's a circle. This is a tangent line. This is a diameter. This is 57 degrees, and I want to know what is the area of the circle. Now, this is one where in the top one, all you needed was geometry and algebra together. And by the way, I don't think you could do this problem without some algebra. And of course, obviously you use geometry. But in this one, you also need some trigonometry. It's not hard to do at all. If you know a little basic trig, this is a very easy problem. And then I'm going to give you a problem that's might look easy, but it's actually deceptively difficult. It's probably the most difficult of these three. Here's a triangle. Here's three sides. I give you the lengths of the sides. And I want you to find the area. Now, this is a deceptively difficult problem. It isn't hard to do if you know what to do. It's like a lot of things in math. It's very easy when you know what to do, but it can be difficult if you don't know. And once again, you're going to get the PDF of these three problems when you opt in to our free materials. When you opt in, I'm going to give you a video where I'm going to talk about more about these things in general. In fact, several videos when it's all over. I will give you the solutions to these problems. I will give you the URLs to the resources that I want you to know. And I will begin to tell you other things that I think you're going to find very interesting and valuable. In fact, I'll be sending you, once you opt in, a series of emails where I'll talk about different aspects of mathematics. My goal is for you to learn mathematics the way it really ought to be taught. And I'm going to tell you how it ought to be taught, and I'm going to give you suggestions on how you can learn it from a variety of resources, including, and I must confess, some that I actually have produced that I think are very good and would invite you to evaluate. But in any event, I hope this has been helpful to you and help you find out a little bit of what you were wanting to learn. And I invite you to go over to the opt-in box over on the right side of the screen and give me your name and your email address. I will then send you back an email confirming that it's you, because we're not spamming anybody. This has to be something you want. Don't put in somebody else's email address because they won't know what it's about. And then we'll start a relationship. And it'll start with the video I promised you where I'll show you the solutions to these particular problems, and I'll talk more about some of these other things. So this is Dr. Dell. I wish you the very best. I hope that you are successful in learning these subjects because they are extremely interesting and valuable in this modern day and age. These three subjects now are really the foundation of becoming mathematically literate, if you want to call it that. And so I hope that I will see you in the future. That's Dr. Dell. Bye-bye.